Hello, welcome to the September 7th edition of the not Diamondbacks, AZ Snakepit Video Roundtable, which is about the Diamondbacks. Hi, I'm Clefo. I screwed up the intro. With me is Soko and Kishi, and I'm totally not having my attention diverted by a hand-aid game right now. Why would you say that? Stop doing that. But I will say that this is a very important episode because, as you probably knew, in the last week, something very, very important happened in Diamondbacks land and in the land of this website. I, of course, mean it's been 1 year since Turtle Talk. Now, you may think, now, last year's Turtle Talk, that was the comprehensive and exhaustive encyclopedia of turtle knowledge. But
all things turtle related.
All things turtle related, yes, yes.
Not tortoises.
Not tortoises.
If you mention a tortoise,
get that tortoise-loving shit out of here.
This is Turtle Talk. And you know what happens with Turtle Talk? We talk turtles. Whether it is turtles themselves, turtles from Entourage, the Sting album, The Dream of the Blue Turtles.
It's turtles all the way down.
Turtles all the way down. Right,
This
right.
show is turtly about turtles.
Turtles. And we were just sort of discussing the, within the last year since then, and we mentioned this in the last Turtle episode, the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, which I suppose is bad or it's good. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I probably wouldn't like it because I get nauseous in movie theaters. So,
First off, I was going to say, do we really have to specify what was in the last Turtle Talk episode? Because I feel like that was just enough of a classic that I think everybody knows what went down.
well, you know, you can't assume anything. It's like when you're told to write like an essay in high school. You know, always assume your audience knows nothing. So.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they have midnight showings of the Turtle Talk episode where they like throw things at the screen and yell out the various lines. You know, it's probably our top hitter.
I don't think anyone can dispute that at all.
So yeah, basically.
Ninja Turtles. I haven't seen it. I'm getting the feeling that I'm probably the biggest Ninja Turtle fan amongst the three of us. And yes, I have Ninja Turtles in my office right now, including the van, some of which has been purchased within the last 5 years. But no, I haven't seen the new one because I have small children and I haven't had time to do it. But I think there's one point of clarification. It's not a Michael Bay movie. He executive produced it, so it's not technically his movie. He probably didn't have a whole lot of insight into it. But it could still be terrible.
Well, EP implies that if not for him, this movie would not exist. So.
I was going to say,
probably because he attached his name to it. He's going to get some sort of payout to it. He may have even helped bring some sort of financing on board. But being an EP does not mean that he actually had any sort of creative input to it.
But it does mean that the movie kind of just has his presence oozing on it, shall we say.
Much like, you know, ooze, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, huh?
Beware the ooze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, The Secret of the Ooze. That was one of the movies.
Yep, it was. The second one. Which somehow is worse than the first one. The Turtle movies, it's one of those things like if you grew up with them, then they were amazing when they came out. But don't go back and watch them. It's just a terrible idea. Don't watch the TV show. Don't watch the movies. Don't do any of it. Just leave it golden in your mind because they're all poop from the butt bad. So, yeah, I would definitely.
I think that's just an important lesson about about nostalgia in general. Because I know that I kind of had the same issue personally about 10 years ago or so when I went to, and I apologize because it wasn't a turtle in the show. It was lions, but I watched Voltron again, and that was a mistake. 6-year-old Devin remembers Voltron being much cooler than it actually was.
Yeah, I like Ninja Turtles for a variety of reasons, but probably one of the biggest ones. What, Liz? Don't give me that look. It's Turtle episode. It's a national holiday. She's backing out of the room slowly.
Some people just can't take the heat.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things about turtles, but that they liked pizza a lot, I think, appealed to me as a 6-year-old. Because, 6-year-olds like junk food. So I guess looking back, that's another thing that's a little bit distressing. Like, in the first Turtles movie, they eat Domino's, which you would think, being raised in New York, that they would have a little bit better taste. I'm not saying hoofing it out to Brooklyn and getting some hoity-toity hipster bullshit pizza that's been imported from Italy or whatever, but at least, the local Ray's knockoff, and I assume has to be better than Domino's. And then the new movie, apparently it's sponsored by Pizza Hut, so they eat Pizza Hut in the movie, which is even worse.
Well, maybe they'll make a direct-to-DVD sequel, and they'll be sponsored by Hungry Howie's or something.
What, was Tombstone Pizza not available?
Ooh, Red Baron.
What about a franchise where they're sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese, and possibly the turtles have to work in the Chuck E. Cheese?
What about
as part of
a horror movie sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese?
I think there's a video game for that.
I think there is.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're talking about turtles because can you think of anything that happened, within the past 3 days that happened to the Diamondbacks? I feel like
almost got a no-no.
Yeah, Cahill almost got a no-no, but did it. But it was like Thursday morning, Friday, or it's like Thursday night, Friday morning. Oh God, what is it? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Thursday we finished up the series against the Padres.
So, and then they went.
I had to recap it, but I didn't actually watch the game. Don't tell anyone. I was watching football instead. But yeah, sorry.
No. There was something like. It was kind of under the radar, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about just to let the people know because they might not have heard of it.
I think there was the travel time, obviously. Did anything go on when they were leaving San Diego to go play the Dodgers?
Well, there was probably a little bit of traffic, especially as you get closer to LA.
The name's on the tip of my tongue. Kenny Loft. Kenny Lofton? No. Kent.
Lane Kiffin?
No, but sort of the right area. I know who we're talking about. Kevin Towers. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him.
Who's that?
He's apparently was the general manager of the Diamondbacks, but on Thursday night it was leaked that he doesn't have a job anymore.
That's just bad for him.
Well, that's not entirely true. He does have a job. He's just not the same job.
Potentially, yes. But
then why is this news then? I mean, he's still got a job. He's still able to pay his bills and stuff.
Apparently, all those trades and stuff that we really didn't like over the past 2 off seasons, he was the guy. That was him.
What? He's the guy that I've been angry at for the last couple of years?
Yeah, I know, and they did a really good job of just sort of hiding him, deep in the organization. But yeah, it's apparently his fault. The InfoWars, they got to it. They uncovered the conspiracy, and but got to hear both sides. But yeah, Kevin Towers doesn't have a job anymore. Basically, what was I'll go into this. Since obviously you just heard the reaction of this news now and not earlier, wink, wink, what is your reaction to this news? How does it make you feel about the future of the Diamondbacks?
I don't know. I feel like I need to sit down and watch Breaking Bad to figure this out. Personally, no offense to Kevin Towers, because I know he's watching, because he's not busy otherwise. I'm kind of glad to see him gone. I know that not everything that's gone wrong with the Diamondbacks in the past couple years has been his faults, unless he's the person who's responsible for all of the injuries as well, which he might be. Teach the controversy, people.
Wake up, sheeple.
But I mean, yeah, he's made some very, very questionable trade moves, and I don't know. The team has not been good, so I guess it's time to flip it around, try something new.
Time to move on. I'm happy about it. I mean, from a personal standpoint, you feel bad for a guy, but he's been around for a long time, so it's obviously not the first time he's been canned, because he was canned by the Padres when he was their GM. So he knows the score, he knows what's up. So I guess I can't be too sad about that. Yeah, he's not to blame for everything, but still, I think going in a different direction will be good. The problem is that we don't really know how things are going to be in the future, so there is that certain, all right, things are different, but it could turn out that the next guy they hire is just going to be more of the same, because we have no idea what Tony La Russa is looking for, and we have no idea what Tony La Russa as chief baseball officer, how he fits within their workflow. Like, I don't necessarily worry about it from the workplace politics angle, which is what most of the commentary has been on. Like, oh, well, GM will have just another person he has to report to and blah, blah. That people should be used to, or most people should be used to having bosses and having to report to people. They already were reporting to people, so that there's another layer on top of it probably doesn't change things that much. It's just more of, okay, well, at what point does Tony La Russa step in as the chief baseball officer, or does he create a larger map and he says, okay, well, this is a vision for our franchise. These are the types of things I want done, but the actual execution of that plan is then given to the general manager, and where there's going to be a lot of wiggle room for tactics and synergy and other sorts of business keywords.
Parameters.
Gloriously.
Pivot. Cloud.
Pushing the envelope.
Cloud-based technology.
Shell company.
Peer-to-peer.
I don't work at a workplace like that, so I'm tapping out.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Buzzword. There's one.
To sum it up, it's yay short term, but potentially worrying over the long term, just simply because there are still so many question marks, and people are still going to complain because whoever they hire next is not going to be what everybody wants, because there will always be different factions, so that end of it is not going to change. The only thing that I kind of hope, which is unfortunate that it has to happen this way because I don't like bullies in general, but my general hope is that whoever it is they bring in will maybe have the national media treat the Diamondbacks differently, because there's a lot of things, like the Upton trade maybe wasn't the best thing in the world, but it wasn't necessarily some blockbuster for the Braves. It's not on the same level as the Lou Brock trade in the 60s to bring him from the Cubs to the Cardinals. Yet people act like it's some big watershed event when it's probably a blip in everybody's history.
I think... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's one thing I hope changes, is that maybe we'll be treated a little bit more fairly, but asking for fairness from internet snarkers is probably too much to ask.
As internet snarkers, I think we can verify yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
Except I think the difference is that we don't really have the same platform And when you start writing for a larger platform, have a larger audience, or start writing for a national publication, then you have more responsibility for what you're writing about, instead of random internet people like us, where we can talk about anything we want because we have no power.
That's true.
Not sure where I was going with that, but yeah, I think I'm happy that the team's going in a different direction. It kind of felt like it was needed. Again, whatever that new direction is may not be the best, but I'm sort of encouraged by Tony Lewis just saying, "Hey, we should get an analytics department up in this." So I'm like, hey, maybe look at things a different way. But I think you're talking about the Upton trade, and I think that based on previous performance of all parties involved, it should have been at least a wash. But kind of just didn't, with Prado kind of shitting the bed a little bit. It kind of didn't work out, and that happens. But I think in very, very, a year and a half later, it's like, oh crap, the Colts just recovered an onside kick, and it's also like, the change of philosophy is like, oh, we don't want high power guys who strike out a lot. We want, high average, that G word. But then the next offseason, they're like, oh, never mind, we need homers. Here's Mark Trumbo. So, in that sense, it would have been like, maybe it would have just been easier to just, keep Upton and not give up, the guys who gave up for Trumbo as well. So, I mean, I think that...
Plus, let's be fair. I mean, we all say Upton and we all say Prado, but we know what the real big loss last season was: Chris Johnson.
Yeah. I didn't like the Upton trade when it happened. I still don't like it. I wish Upton was still here. I liked him as a player. I didn't think he had the same character flaws that some people thought he did, or some people thought he had. But I think when it comes down to it, yeah, those may have been errors in judgment, or the plan wasn't executed quite the way they wanted it to be, or they had to keep changing their target, or whatever it would be. But I do think that there is a large part of, it's just simply, if it just feels like we can't really get away with anything. That there's a different standard held for the Diamondbacks than other teams, and part of it coming from, for whatever reason, snarky internet writers don't like Kevin Towers, and so he's an easy target. So hopefully that will change, but it probably won't.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the obvious example of this is that the Cardinals, they hit Precious Wonder Boy Andrew McCutchen with a pitch in a sort of retaliatory sort of move, and nobody seemed to really give a crap.
Yeah, and I even pointed out on Twitter, and then some of the people that I know that were hammering it the hardest were just basically shrugging, like, well, it's not the same thing. Like,
isn't it, though?
It's the exact same fucking thing. But, it's people wanted to make that particular event a witch hunt for whatever reason, and never mind that less than a week before, Kershaw had plunked someone as a retaliatory pitch, and obviously it happened again to McCutchen, and it happens all the goddamn time. It's been happening, and that sort of argument does not necessarily excuse it, and if they got rid of, or figured out a way to legislate hit by pitches out, then I'd be okay with it, because I don't particularly care one way or the other. But I think it's incredibly hypocritical to get up in arms about that one event and not have cared about it before, and to not cared about it since. And it wasn't that long ago, so it's not even the excuse of saying, well, it's been a couple seasons, so these are different circumstances. No, it was only a couple weeks ago, and you don't care now? Screw you.
I think part of the problem, I mean, we're like, teams hit players with pitches. That happens. I think it's stupid, but whatever. I feel like part of the problem with that when it came to the Diamondbacks, and this goes back to Kevin Towers too a little bit, where like there are some things I don't think a GM really needs to go on the air and talk about, like hitting people with pitches and how the team needs to do it more, or having opinions about the Dodgers in the pool. I mean, like, I feel like he did have some very questionable choices as to like where he decided he was going to set his flag and make a stand. And that's part of why I'm kind of happy to see him out of the GM's office, because hopefully whoever we get in next is going to be, one would hope, a little bit more professional in how they deal with it.
Yeah. He's gone. So yeah.
He gone.
He gone.
He gone.
You can put it on the board.
Yes.
Yes. But as for who the next person will be, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
You know, obviously, I have my own opinions and hopes for that. I mean, I don't have any specific names because I don't follow it that closely.
But is there a? I mean, I can't think of specific names either because my finger's not quite on that pulse. But what is the sort of philosophy either of you guys would want the next general manager to sort of have in regards to how this team is now and how to get it sort of back on the right path?
I think if we were in a different division, we might be able to get away with not some of the things that we've been doing. But because we have to go up against two larger money teams, especially one team that really gives no shits about money, between the Dodgers and the Giants, that you have to then ask yourself, okay, are we going to try and compete with them financially, which will not be possible unless something significantly changes for their revenue streams, or if they're just willing to go into debt all the time, or are we going to attempt to build a cheaper but smarter team? And that, you know, kind of like how the Suns are rebuilding themselves, where they just went young. They got as many draft picks and young guys as they could, and they built a system, and then they're trying to make sure everybody, because they're young and they don't know any better, they get built up in this system, a system that hopefully will result in wins. And it may not, but I think I prefer that sort of system, you know, where you're just trying to get as many draft picks and prospects as you can, and you're building them up, and then if you can hang on to some of them, that's great, but some of them, if you spin them off to get more, then that's just the way it is. But you just keep that machine going, you know. Even looking at a team like the Cardinals, which most people wouldn't consider like a really new wave analytical team, that's what they do. They have lots of draft picks, or they have lots of prospects, and they're always grinding through new guys. And then they sign the guys that they can, but they don't have an outrageously high salary either. So I think I'd much rather that than this sort of dumpster diving from free agency that we've been doing in the past couple of years.
Yeah, you sort of like, I hope you sort of follow the model of like the Rays or the Athletics, or, you know, these sort of like smaller market teams without much resources, but who are consistently, at least lately, I mean, not the Rays this year, but, you know, you're going to get that, but like, or consistently decent because they keep these assets and then they just plug the holes where they can, rather than just plug holes that may not need to be there. Because, I mean, you know, that was kind of a weird hallmark of the Towers thing. 2011 to 2012, Robert Power comes off a pretty good season in, you know, playing left field every day, and they decided, no, we kind of want Jason Kubel to play left field now. And so you're just sort of filling this weird hole that wasn't needed, whereas you could have bolstered some other. It's like on that 2012 team, I'm trying to remember that was 2 years ago, like, you know, some more starting pitching depth would have been nice. You could have thrown money at that, you know, or, you know, maybe get a cheaper reliever or two. So, you know, just, I think, yeah, just try to build from within and then just sort of cheaply, but not dumpster dive, if that makes sense, like your holes elsewhere. Like, it's like, oh, we need a left-handed reliever. Oh, let's just go sign this guy, rather than, oh, let's trade a prospect who might become something one day for this left-handed reliever. Am I making sense? I don't know.
I think part of what I would want to see from the team, and I think it ties into what you're saying, Charlie, is I just would like them to see them be more consistent in how they're what they're if they have a plan, then I want them to actually do this. I don't want this to be like the Cylons where they have a plan and it's never really going to be explained. But no, don't worry, they have a plan. No, they've got it. It's okay. Yeah, there's a plan, really. But no, like I really feel like there's not a consistent application of what they were trying to do. They, like you said, when they tried to fill holes, they made other holes worse. Or, I mean, we supposedly had a very good farm system a couple of years ago, and I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be terrible now. I don't know. That's not really the thing I follow. But like I feel like they didn't use it well. They didn't when it came to players that they were trading. It seems like they weren't trading players or prospects who were good. It seemed like they were trading prospects who they'd given up on.
There was a lot of like selling really, really low on guys. Like it's like, oh, here would have been the optimal time to trade them, but nah, we'll do it here.
And
or when every prospect gets shipped out, or even not necessarily prospect, when a lot of the guys are getting traded away, and then you start hearing all these whispers going through the media about them having issues with various players, and it's like, get your shit together, Diamondbacks. Be more professional about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing that sort of bothered me about the Towers regime a lot, was the sort of, oh, we traded this guy away, rather than justifying it by just saying, hey, we think this makes our team better, which, may not be true, but if you believe that, I mean, they'll just make fun of you for believing that, but, we can live with that. But if you say, like, oh, I saw Trevor Bauer operating a cockfighting ring, it's just, it seems unnecessary, and, like, it makes you seem kind of petty.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's problematic if I don't even have to think very hard to think of 4 different players that were traded away that sort of whisper campaign went on with. Some of them more explicit than others. Upton's was pretty explicit, but even for guys like Eaton and Davidson, where supposedly they were problem people in the locker room, and maybe they were a bit spoiled. I don't know, but they're young 20s and they have money, at least a certain amount of money, and
wealthy professional athletes in their mid-20s being assholes? No, that doesn't make sense at all.
I mean, as 3 people who were once in their early 20s, I mean, there were probably some moments you look back on where like, ooh, that was not a nice thing I did.
No, I was pretty awesome.
No, I was pretty terrible.
No. But I feel like also the legacy of that is not just when they talk crap about players who they've traded. I mean, it makes them look kind of dumb to the general community, and I mean that's probably some of what the internet snark campaign comes from. But it also means, I mean, that's got to make it harder for you to get free agents, because they're like, oh, so if I sign with you guys for a year and you trade me at the deadline, how much are you going to bitch about me?
Yeah. That's why I kind of loved it when McCarthy was traded. He just came out and said, yeah, these guys didn't want me to throw my cutter, and I'm throwing it now, and I'm good again. So, yeah, because, shoes on the other foot.
The Jews are on the other foot.
I don't know how to respond to that. This just got awkward so fast. Anyway, I coughed there. I think we have a vague idea of what we want the next general manager to do. I think there are very sort of pressing issues that they need to do. And I think the biggest thing for me is that they need to treat this like an actual like rebuild situation, not like, oh, we're just 2 pieces away from competing again, even though
2 pieces away from another 81 and 81 season.
If there is an advantage to some of Kevin Towers' deals, is that he didn't do a lot of long deals. So yeah, it's annoying that we still have Arroyo for 2 more years, but we can get through that, and then it will be done with. As opposed to, man, this guy's going to be on our books for another 10 years, even if it's only for a small amount, like some of the contracts from the World Series team.
Yeah.
So there is at least some flexibility, but I would think the very first thing that a general manager would want to do is get the financial situation in order. We don't need a $100 million team to lose 90 games. That's a little bit of an overpay, a little bit. And then rebuilding the farm system. Figuring out, okay, well, which of the guys do we want to keep and which ones do we want to move? And that's not necessarily because there's anything wrong with them, but just simply because they may not be able to stick around long enough for the rebuild to finish. Goldschmidt's young and good and has a friendly contract, so that would be someone you want to keep around. But if it's someone that you thought, well, okay, within the next year next few years they're either going to start declining, or their contract's going to get up and it's going to be too expensive, well, then maybe you need to start thinking about moving these guys and just essentially redoing everything.
Well, what's kind of shitty is that you mentioned Arroyo. He would have been like at next year's deadline. He would have been a great trade candidate if he had been vaguely competent, but he had to go and pitch through. It's like, oh, my elbow's on fire and my velocity's way lower than it is, but I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Now let me play you this Creed song.
Okay, but in Arroyo's defense, he did check in with 2 sources. First, he went to WebMD. WebMD told him it was cancer.
But thank God it wasn't.
Yeah, so then he started making meth in his trailer park and had like a 55-hour panic attack. It was wild.
But then he went and he was reading some articles about himself, and apparently he never gets injured, so he was like, no, this must be normal.
Yeah, that's fine.
Must be a blip.
Yeah. Pitch through the pain.
Pain is just weakness leaving the body.
Unfortunately, it seems like Ziegler went to the same doctor that he did. So that's unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. Is like guys like, yeah, he helps the team by playing through pain. Because by playing through pain at 50% capacity, which is worse than your backup at 100%, that's really helping the team, you guys. Yeah, good job.
But I mean, then again, on the other hand, there is that issue where if somebody is taking days off because of their injury, then people complain about that too.
Yeah, people kind of suck.
People suck. That's basically what it comes down to.
Sports fans are pretty much the worst.
The absolute worst.
I mean, humans in general are the worst, but sports fans...
If you divide it into subsets, I would say MRAs, then sports fans.
Where does
MRAs? Well, okay, maybe like neo-Nazis
MRAs,
first.
Sports fans.
Yeah.
ISIS, neo-Nazis, MRAs, sports fans.
Okay, no. Okay, I'm sorry. ISIS, neo-Nazis, MRAs, Raiders fans, and Dodgers fans specifically, and then the rest of sports
militarized fans. Police conventions, and then sports fans.
Boy, we are going to...
Is that how it goes?
We're going to get so many angry tweets from Breitbart readers or however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Probably. Hopefully this isn't one that Jim goes back and watches.
I'm just glad people are following the show.
And now, I guess moving forward to the future, I guess we sort of mentioned, there's a chance Kevin Towers could remain in the organization as a sort of, I guess, scouting organization. That seems very unusual for a sports workplace. I'm sure it's happened before, but it sort of happened last time when Kevin Towers took over as a GM and Jerry Dipoto was the scouting director. But it is sort of an odd arrangement that could potentially happen. How do you feel about that?
As long as he's not talking to the press, I'm okay with it. And as long as there's somebody else basically checking his work. I mean,
I'm sure that there's some internet writer that will snark about this, or hundreds, but I don't really care because they're stupid and I hate them. But there is something good about organizations recognizing that people can have value and experience and then wanting to retain that value and still use it, even if it isn't in the exact position that they originally were hired in. So that they might be looking at him, and if he's open to the idea of saying, well, why don't you help us in our scouting department, especially on the pitching end, or something like that. Because it's not like the guy doesn't have experience or is a complete idiot. It's just maybe being GM wasn't a good fit for his talents, especially the way baseball is run now. So that they are willing to retain talent, I think, is a good thing, instead of just kicking him out the door.
That's fair, yeah.
Business.
Hi, I'm Bob Executive. Is this business?
Someone needs to roll up that Lego Movie Business Kitty clip.
Yeah.
Dead air.
I haven't seen that movie either, so...
Hey, I generally don't see movies in general because, I don't know, I'm a foreign person.
Well, I would have thought you guys would have known every quote and every scene from that movie simply back when Steve first bought it and watched it about 5 times in the space of a day.
I've never done that with any movie. That seems weird to me. Because
Yeah,
I have a job.
no. I've seen some movies a lot of times.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of movies I've seen a whole bunch of times, but never in that small of a time frame.
No. Yeah, not back-to-back-to-back situation.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah. I think, Kevin Towers is gone. This is sort of a new chapter for the Diamondbacks, and we really won't know what's going on until there's a new guy. I do sort of like the idea of just like getting a guy sort of to the curb as soon as possible, and not just like having to wait out the season, because then you can get a head start on hiring a new guy, because all candidates are open sort of now, so that's nice. I think the one sort of loose end from all this is what does this possibly mean for Kirk Gibson? That's my question. Answer it.
Probably gone. Maybe not. I don't know. It probably depends on what type of GM comes in. There's a certain logic to that. A GM is going to want to hire their guy. So it certainly would make sense that whomever is next will pick someone that they like, and that Gibby will be led off into some wild pasture, and he'll be free.
Which he will trudge into without moving his arms as he walks.
Yep. He basically will be like a horse at the end of its life, and at like a petting zoo, and he'll just kind of like wander around and be really surly, and kids will come up to pet him and offer out a carrot, and their parents will be in the background like, you gotta keep your palm open, he'll bite your fingers off, keep your palm, Jimmy! So That's
Okay, I don't even. Yeah, no, that's actually officially how I want Kirk Gibson's life to go now. No, that'd be terrible. No, I feel like Gibson's probably on his way out because, and I don't know if it'll be a situation again where they try to offer him another position somewhere in the franchise organization. Organization is probably the word I wanted there, not franchise. But I feel like Gibby has made enough in-game questionable choices to have deserved it kind of regardless of Kevin Towers' status as well. And again, hey, what a great idea it was to offer both of them extensions in like February. So good work, team. Glad that worked out.
If it's money, you spend it. That's the philosophy. I think, yeah, Gibby might be gone just because it feels like, again, going back to that, everything sort of should hit a reset button, you know? And it's just, but Gibby was also not the Towers guy because he was on board before as the manager. He was the interim before Towers got hired, so, you know. Woo! Anyway, you'll see in 5 seconds what I'm
really excited about interim managers.
All right.
Yeah, interim managers. Yeah, that gets me so pumped. So pumped up. Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a point in that favor, but I guess the difference there is that he was going from an interim to a full manager and hadn't really had a whole lot of body of work, whereas now he's had multiple seasons where someone can look at it and say, okay, well, we know what he's about. And, yeah, a manager can only do so much with the talent that they're given, but you could make an argument that he hasn't used the talent he has correctly, or at least hasn't necessarily gotten the full potential. And then you add in the fact, well, what if suddenly we have a major youth movement and we have just tons of young guys hanging out here? Is his style of managing going to work for them, or is going to be helpful for them? And again, I think that's going to depend on what kind of general manager we have, because if we have some old school guy, then he may not care. But if we have someone who's more like the Astros organization now, where they have very specific things that they want the organization to be teaching their players, and the manager is going to have to be on board with that. And I don't know, Kirk Gibson kind of seems like the guy who, you know, he's on the last year on the force before retirement, and he just doesn't care anymore, and he's going to play by his own rules.
Yeah.
He's like the horse on the police force that's like clipping-clopping around. And, okay, this analogy's getting away from me.
Clip-clopping. The horse on the force with the, I don't know. Anyway, I think,
a horse
yeah.
on the force is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse on the force.
There's a show called BoJack Horseman on Netflix right now, which I think is really funny. You should watch it. That's all I have.
Heard it's funny, I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I think the sort of humor is not for everyone, but what humor is, but it definitely fits my realm of humor. And it
sounds pretty surrealistic, which I like.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm definitely interested in watching it, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So just barely finished up Scandal. So
yeah, it's about it's a sort of animated show about a horse who was a big sitcom star in the '90s who's washed up now. And it has a lot of, you know, if you're sort of like a comedy nerd, there's a lot of people, voice actors, you're like, hey, I know that person. So
I really want to someday get into Bob's Burgers, because I did not realize that a lot of the talent behind that is related to home movies, which was a phenomenal show.
Incredible show.
So I feel like I really need to get into that. But I worry that it's one of those things like other shows, like Arrested Development, or Parks and Rec, which I recently tried to watch, where I've seen so many gift sets and other things referencing it that I almost wonder if I already know all the funny bits, which would be really annoying. Thank you, Internet.
I think that there are probably more funny bits from Bob's Burgers you don't know yet, but
that's my hope.
Opinion.
Yeah, that's my hope. You know, it's just the way it goes.
Yeah. I think on that, that's a good place to wrap up. Nobody could say we didn't talk about baseball this week, and actually, you did last week, but I wasn't here last week, so that doesn't count.
Was I in it last week? I don't
No,
remember.
last week was myself and Mrs. Soko, and I will be perfectly honest, there was a lot more baseball involved there than I expected.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job, so...
I don't think she's burnt out from doing these, so maybe she has a higher desire or inclination to talk about baseball, where at this point I feel like, given that we've been on the most amount of video chats between last year and this year...
It's fun, though, right? I say to gritted teeth.
Thank God for that moldy bread and gruel, Jim.
Yeah.
No, I mean these chats are really good. I mean I really enjoy them. It's the only 45 minutes of the week that Jim turns the lights on in the writer's dungeon. So
True.
I got this. I was able to beat up this hobo for the sweet floor lamp. So it's gonna be taken away from me tomorrow, but
it's good times. Good times.
and on that, while the football game I totally wasn't watching, just ended, and now I've seen back-to-back political ads for the congressional race down here, opposing sides. I haven't seen that actually. Wink, wink. I think that's a good time as I need to wrap up. So for myself, for Kishi, and for Soko, good night, and it'll be over soon. Don't worry. Peace out.